All right, hello once again. Jeff Scott, formerly of Rankin Technical College, and as part of my YouTube channel, which is JPS-Jeff Teaches Programming, which currently has one playlist on it called Jeff Teaches Programming Python, with about 72 videos on it. I want to continue on in our journey in Python. Now, when you look here, okay, we have set up our Python environment. We've talked about variables. We printed to the screen. We talked about comments and errors. We used f-strings. We understood the assignment operators. We got user input. We saved and ran files. We did all that. Then going into here, we've manipulated strings. We've used comparisons. We've used if-else. We've used conditionals like if-else, if, elif, else, etc. We've talked about the major data structures, those being lists, tuples, dictionaries, and booleans. We've gone through for loops, while loops, logic with loops, adding, removing, updating items from lists and dictionaries. We've done that both there, plus we've already gone through databases where we've done CRUD operations of create, read, update, and delete. All right, we've written our own functions. We've imported Python libraries. We've gone through object-oriented programming. We've gone through the differences between functional programming and object-oriented programming. I think we all know how to Google. All right. So what's next? Well, what I want to go through next, to start going through right now, is this. All right. I'm in geeksforgeeks.org, and this is a TKinter cheat sheet. What is TKinter? Well, we're going to change, starting in this set of lectures, so that rather than creating console-based applications, which is what we've been doing literally for 100% of the examples we've done so far, we're going to start making some GUI applications. Now, as you can see, it says TKinter, the standard GUI library for Python, empowers developers to effortlessly create visual, appealing, and interactive desktop applications. Now, a lot in that sentence, but let's break it down. All right. TKinter is literally available to us inside of Python. So in other words, if I were to come in here, I'm just going to create a new folder right here, and I'm going to call it test. All right, now I'm going to open up this test folder with code, and I'm just going to create a file in here. You've seen me do all this stuff already, but I'm going to create a file in here, and we'll call it mytest.py. Okay, I'm not going to really do much of anything in here, at least right now. In fact, let's change that. I don't like that. Let's call it, let's rename it to GUI. Let's call it GUI with TKinter.py. Okay? Well, you know, when we were working with databases, we went in and we said import, and we said SQLite 3. Boom. There it is. We were able to start using the stuff that was in there. Well, another thing that's available for an import is TK, notice there it is, TKinter. Now, normally when people put this in, they give it an alias right away. That rather than saying TKinter.this, TKinter.that, they usually say as TK. You don't have to do that, but it's a thing that quite often people do. All right, so now everything in TKinter is available to us in our program. All right, I'm just going to bounce back and forth between what we're doing here and a program. So this is a cheat sheet, and as it says, it offers a quick reference for the most common TKinter widgets and commands, and for tips for using them. It says in this cheat sheet, whether you're a beginner or experienced, it should help you gain knowledge to be able to use TKinter. Well, that's the idea. Now, what is TKinter? Now, notice it's red here. If I click on it, this is what we're going to go through next. All right, so I really don't want to do that right now. But as it says, it's the de facto way in Python to create GUI apps. Now, it's not the only way. There are a good half dozen or more ways that you can create GUI apps. TKinter is probably the easiest for a couple reasons. The first one I've already mentioned to you, and that is it's built into the language. All right? Another advantage is you can start working with stuff right away, and we're going to do that right away. As it says, it's the only framework built into Python. All right? It provides an interface to the TK toolkit. All right? Now, there's a lot of stuff in here where it says, they'll show you this. And it says, this is the overview of the main concepts of TKinter. So I'm going to walk through this. All right? So I'm going to grab these 2 lines of code right here. We're going to go over them in just a second. But I'm going to put those into the program that I've been working on. The whole program with one big line in it. Right there. All right, now I'm looking here and it says root equal TK. It says TK is not defined. Not sure why I'm getting that. Let's see if we can figure it out. Well, from TKinter import star would be basically, we can put that in too. We can do it like that. I don't know why. But there's nothing wrong with, instead of doing it this way, let me comment this out, okay, and doing it like this. There's nothing wrong with that, except this brings in everything, which may or may not include things we actually don't even need. You can end up getting code bloat because you're bringing in a lot of things from the library that you don't need. It's not a great example, but let's say that I went to the library to get a book. And I went home with every book in the library. All right? It'd be a lot more than I actually needed. But with this in here, we're going to go over what it means in just a second. Let me save this, and let me run it. And you say nothing happened. Give it a second. There it is. We made a window. That's our first GUI window. All right? This name that you use right here, root, it's one that's often used. But we could have called it, I could have called it hello. And then it would have had it said hello.main loop. There's nothing special about using the word loop. You'll notice if I run it again, there it is. So it works just fine. But for whatever reason, root is one that's commonly used. So I'm going to use it. I mean, again, it's the one that they used in this article too. All right. So as it says, the main application window is a graphical window with a title bar, minimize button, maximize button, and close button. Did we get all those? Well, there it is. There's the minimize, there's the maximize, and there's the close. There's the title bar, but all it has in it is the word TK. All right? Now, in Python, these interactive widgets are what we call typically controls and things like that in other languages. As it says, they're the controls or the widgets that you can put inside of the window and interact with them. All right, like what? And this is what's going to be discussed in this cheat sheet. Buttons, check buttons, menus, menu buttons, entries, text, canvas, radio button, list box, combo box, scale, and scroll bar. All right, so we've got here the button is a widget that's used to perform a particular task when clicked. Now, this isn't complete. All right, if we were to put this in right now, all right, if we put this in, first of all, we wouldn't put it here. We'd have to put it inside of here. The main loop is what gets things going. But if I went and did this, let me just, I'm going to put a bunch of space in here. But if I came through here and did this, I'm getting errors. And why? Well, first of all, I want to give the button a name. So I could say btn equals button. Okay, that'd be a start. All right. Now, this master, basically what it wants to know is it wants to know, what is this linked to? What is this button here actually linked to? Now, I don't remember if we can put root in here or not. All right. And let's come in here and we'll say, I think we can say text equal hello world. And this command is, what do we want to have happen when we click the button? Well, if we don't want to have anything happen, I think we can leave this out of here and just put it in like this. Now, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's try it. Let's see now if inside of this, now when we run this, we'll stop the run. Let's see if we get a button in there now that says hello world. So file, save all. We'll run it. We did not. I thought we would. And it's the way I'm linking it up isn't correct. All right. It's the right idea, though, and what I wanted to get across to you. All right. And we're going to keep looking at this. Don't worry about it. I'm learning it with you. But we can say any kind of control. Okay. And it doesn't have to be BTN. This is a kind of a common way of doing it, like in Microsoft. So let's say I was going to have two buttons. I was going to have a clear button, and I was going to have an exit button. Something like that. All right, then I might say BTN clear, and then for the text, we would put in clear. And if I had another one that was going to be exit, then I could say exit, and the text would be exit. Now, if you remember, the other thing that we could put here was a comma and then a command. Well, quite often what that's going to be is going to be when you click the button, that's what you want to have happen. So it's the code that you would want to have run. And in most cases, it's going to be probably a function that we write. All right, let's just keep going. Then there's a check button widget. All right, as it says, you can use it for on and off selections. I'm not even going to go through that one. All right, when a button is pressed, as it says, TKinter calls that function or method. Well, we're going to do something like that in a little bit. Then there's menus. All right, as it says, a menu is a convenient way to access various options. So right now, we don't have a menu in here, but we could add one. All right. A menu button, as it says, it's a drop-down menu that is always shown to the user. Okay. If we look here, if I right mouse click right here, what do I get? I get a context sensitive menu. And it only comes up when I right mouse click. But if I wanted that to remain all the time, I could set it up in one of these menu buttons. All right. All right. So far we've looked quickly in here at buttons, check buttons, menus, and menu buttons. The next one is entry. And after entry, we're going to do text. What's the difference between entry and text? Entry allows you to display just a single line of text. If you want to have multiple lines of text or allow for multiple lines of text, you use a text widget. But for instance, if I was writing an application where I wanted the user to put in, let's say, I wanted them to put in their login and then their password, I'd probably use entry and make two different entry controls, one for the login and one for the password. If I was going to ask the user for something that she or he may type in that would at least conceivably go over multiple lines, then I'd use text. So that really is the difference between the two. Okay. Canvas, as it says, you kind of can look at a canvas kind of as being like, where an artist draws. As it says, it allows you to display various graphics on an application. You can use it to put shapes on. You can use it to hold different widgets. There's different ways it can be used, and it doesn't have to be used. Next, we have radio buttons. Radio buttons are for what are referred to as mutually exclusive choices. So, for instance, I could have a radio button. As an example, let's say that I asked for your year in school, and it was a 4-year school where you were high school, let's say, where you were either a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, or a senior. And I could have 4 buttons, one for each one of those options: freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And when you clicked one of those, maybe you would go to, maybe it would hit, it would take you to the freshman page of the yearbook or the sophomore page of the yearbook, etc. But these radio buttons are based off the old AM radio that were in cars back in the 60s, basically, where you would have 5 buttons and your radio would play, and you could program any or all of those 5 buttons, and when you pressed a button, it would go to that radio station. Sounds a little bit archaic almost now, but that's the way it used to be. All right. A list box. Imagine that you had a grocery list, okay, or a list of states. All right. It says the items must be of the same type of font and have the same font color. That's not that big a thing. But I could have a list box if I decided that instead of setting up freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior as radio buttons, I could do it as a list box and let you only choose one of those, as an example. All right. Combo box. Notice what it says. It's a combination of a list box and an entry field. What that means is you can have a bunch of predefined choices, but you can allow the user to enter his or her own choice as well. A scale widget, as it says, is going to allow you to do things with a range of values. Okay. A scroll bar will allow you to either scroll left, scroll right, scroll up, or scroll down. All right. Then, as it says, here are some informative widgets. The first one that you see there is a label. All right. As it says, these widgets are typically used to display data, messages, or status updates. They're oftentimes combined with other widgets, such as I might have a label that says, enter your name here. Then next to it, I might have an entry widget, all right, that would allow me to put in a name. Then maybe I would have, maybe I'm writing something that would be like for a doctor's office. And maybe later I write down hobbies. So I put hobbies in there as a label, but since you could have multiple hobbies, rather than putting that in, all right, rather than putting that in, as we said before, as an entry widget, we'd maybe put it in as a text widget. All right. So these are labels, messages, separators, and progress bars. Label I've gone over already. Message, as it says, it's used to show a message to the user. All right. Then there's a separator. Quite often, for example, a good place where you might see a separator used would be in a menu. You might have things that belong together. So maybe the first 3 options belong together, and then the next 3 belong together in the menu, but they're not all 6. They're kind of disjoint from one another. In other words, the first 3 belong together, and the second 3 belong together, but not all 6. So what you could do is put the first 3 in, then put in a separator, which is just basically like a line, all right, and then put in the other 3. A progress bar will basically show you if something is happening and where it is. All right. There's grouping that you can do, as it says here. Grouping widgets are widgets that act like a container. They're holders. All right. You can have a frame, a label frame, and a paned window. The only one I've really been playing with has been the frame. As it says, it's a rectangular region on a screen. Can also be used as a foundation class. So you can basically combine this with other things to make something fairly complex. A label frame is a framed widget that has a label border. A paned widget is a geometry manager widget. Now this is going to become kind of important, especially the word geometry, because when we start to create these, you'll notice when we did this, this is the default window, the size, because we didn't give it a size. Notice we can make it bigger, make it as big as we want it or need it to be, or we can even maximize it on the screen. All right, but by default, it's going to be fairly small. Something like this is what we saw before, unless we give it, all right, a width and a height. And we're going to get into that in just a bit. All right, position widgets. All right, I haven't done too much with place, but pack and grid are going to be important. All right, in fact, we can talk about place too. Place will allow you to place something exactly where you want it to go on the screen. All right, pack, as it says, it packs the widgets relative to something earlier. It basically is, you can kind of look at it like if you're packing a suitcase. All right, and grid is another way of packing, but grid has got a little bit more to it. It's a little more refined, for lack of better words. So, as they mentioned, packs widgets relative to an earlier widget. It can be used with options like fill, expand, and side control. Place is the simplest because it allows you to place, set the position and size of a window. We're going to look at all these in just a bit. Finally, there's grid, and it puts things in a two-dimensional cell. So this was literally, this was a quick cheat sheet to show you maybe not the 35,000 foot view, but maybe the 1,000 foot view of what's going on here. All right, we're going to go on from here in just a minute. Again, is TKinter the only library available? No. Here's some other ones. PyQt, WXPython, Kivy, and there's other ones as well. Can we use TKinter to create cross-platform applications? All right. Cross-platform meaning that you can create something that can run on different operating systems, typically. Are there any resources for learning TKinter in depth? Well, yeah, there's whole classes that you can take on this. All right. How do you handle input? We've already looked at this. Typically, you're going to use an entry field if you want a user to be able to put in single line input, a text field for multi-line input, or things like checkboxes and radio buttons if you've got predetermined input and you want to let the user choose one option from a radio button, or 0, 1, or more options with checkboxes. Can I use TKinter for commercial projects? Yes, it's open source and free to use, so there's no licensing. And then they're just trying to tell you about their own course they have here, all right, for mastering Python. So I'm just going to stop that right there. And now I'm going to jump into this tutorial. All right, I'm just going to keep going on here. So, the first one that we did was right here. All right, that was that TKinter cheat sheet. Second is going to be this Python TKinter tutorial. And I want to provide this for you, so if you want to go back and take a look at it yourselves, you'll be able to do so and do it in the order that I'm doing it with you. Now you'll notice, last updated, August of 2024. Not even 3 months old. So it's very up to date. As it says, it's probably the most commonly used library for developing GUI applications. All right. So in this guide, and I've got all these pages here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, they're all here. They're someplace. But we're going to go over the overview, the introduction, the installation, which is much, writing Hello World, writing a GUI app, and destroying Windows. So as it says, what this guide does is it walks you through the essentials. Okay? They also come in there and talk about the concept of widgets. It's not complete in that it's not going to show you every widget there is. All right? These are the basic widgets. So it says in this section, we'll explore the fundamental building blocks. What are the widgets of TKinter? All right, so let's take a look. The first one they're showing is labels. All right. Now, a couple things. First of all, there's code in here. I'm not going to put all this code in, but I wanted to show you. Again, a label is typically used. It doesn't have code associated with it. It's used kind of like, it's like for a heading or something like that, typically. All right. So the syntax, these are all the things that you can add. The default is center. So that means that when you create it, it's going to go into the center of the screen. If you don't want it there, you move it around. We'll look at that in a little bit. BG, as it says, you can set a background color. Then there's height and width. These are probably going to be the two that'll be the most important to you. Possibly font as well, if you wanted to set it up with a font. All right, but you can see there's a lot of stuff in here. Pad X and Pad Y. By default, it's going to put it in the center, but it's going to put it way up on the top of the screen. And if you don't want that, you can go and add something to it. So here's what they're putting in. Now look at this. This is new. Okay, we saw this before. This will get us going. In fact, I like the way they do it here better than the way that I did it from the other one I grabbed. So we'll create a main window, as it says. Here we're sizing it. We're saying it's 400 pixels wide by 250 pixels tall. This will be the title for it. So let's just grab that. Let's just grab this right here. All right, we're going to go back to our program. I'm going to get rid of everything that's there, and I'm going to put in that. So what we should have when we run this is a window that's 400 by 200, and it has a title that says, "Welcome to my app." Let's see if indeed that's what we've got here. For some reason it didn't run. I don't know, maybe I didn't click the button. I don't know. Oh, I know what it is. I didn't put in my loop. It did run, but we have to put in that at the very bottom here, right here, to run the main event loop. And I didn't put that in, so it's there waiting for that. I'll put it right down here. So here we're creating the window. Here, as it says, I'm going to bring that up to here. Yeah. Try that again. So here we're creating the main window. Here, we're setting the size of the window. And here, we're setting the title of the window. Now let's see if we've got it. File, save all, and we'll run it. There it is. So that's 400 wide, 400 pixels wide, 250 pixels tall, and the title is "Welcome to my app." All right. Now all we've done right here is to create the window. This has nothing to do with labels, and that's what's shown in here next. So you can see all the stuff they put in here. Let's put all of it in. Let's put every single flippin' bit of it in here. This says create a string variable to associate with a label. All right. Do we have to do this? No. We could have just set the text in there to hello world ourselves, but we're doing it by setting it equal to this label right here. So let's grab all this. Let's come in here. And I'm going to paste that in. You can see how long that is. All right. So now we should have a label that we're creating in here that is going to say text var. We're setting the text to hello world. It should be centered on the screen. It should have a blue background. I believe this is 30 pixels high. I'm sorry, 3 pixels high. And the width should be 30 pixels. I don't remember what this is. The font will be Arial 16-point bold. The cursor will be set up to a hand. The foreground color will be red. I guess that's the background color. Will be light blue. It should have 15 pixels of X padding and 15 pixels of Y padding, so it's not going to stick. All right, should be centered, no underline, etc. So let's save that and take a look. Okay, I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. Yeah, we didn't pack it. This stuff is all has to work in unison with each other. So that's basically going to put it on the screen. So let me do that and run it again. There's my label. Now, right now, it looks a lot like a button. I get that. All right, and that's okay. Okay. Now, we can go in there and start changing some stuff that's in here, such as, here's the 15 pixels of padding right there. And I don't know if we have any Y padding in there or not. It doesn't look like it, even though it says it here. But let's try this once. Let's notice, see the hand, it says hand 2. All right, so we can do anything we want here. We could change this, we could reverse this. So we could make this red, and we could make this light blue. What's that going to do? It should make the label's background color red, and the label itself should now be light blue. Let's see if indeed that happens. And there it is. We can change anything in here we want. We've got the width in here of being 30. Maybe we only want it to be 20. All right, so instead of looking like this, all right, if we run it again, okay, looks a little nicer. We've got the height at 3. We could readjust the height to 2. Okay, you can see it's looking a little better, at least I think it is. All right, we can have the center. I think we can put in here like left or right as well. So if we wanted it to be left justified. I think I've got to stop that run first. Thought it was left, and it might be something else. That might be what's screwing it up. All right, but you can see what's happening here. Now, typically, you're not going to put all this stuff in there. I mean, let's be real here. Okay, if I don't care about the color, I can get rid of that. If I wanted to have defaults for everything, I can get rid of that. Let's change that back to center again. Okay. Font is one you typically would want to set. All right. I'm not going to set the cursor. I'll set the padding. That's fine. That's anchored at the center. I think that might be what I wanted, was justifying it at the center. But let's get rid of all this stuff here. So now all we have, we're going to have in here again, hello world. All right. Let's just change it to this is my label. All right. So that's the text. It should be centered. It should be Arial 16-point bolded and have some X and Y padding on it. Other than that, we're using all of the defaults. There it is. So you don't even, it's kind of hard to even tell. We could have put a background in there. That might have made it a little easier to look at. So again, we could come in here. I don't know if the order in which you put these matters, but I'm going to try to say BG equal white. Oh, doesn't like my line of text. Oh, probably because I don't have a comma after this. That's probably what it was. There, now it looks maybe a little nicer. Or we could reverse it. We could say background is black, and we could set the foreground color to white. All right, just as examples, these are all different things, and I need a comma there again, that you can do. All right, so again, File, Save All. I think I've got to stop the old run first. There it is. Okay, these are just examples here. I don't want to run through this with every one, but you can see the different things that you've got in here. All right. Now, where this anchor is, I do want to see TK dot. Yeah, you can say left. Okay. So I'm going to put in here, just so we have something. Whoops. First name. Okay. And if you say, why are you doing that? Just bear with me a bit, if you would. We'll set the background back to white. And the foreground should be black by default, so I can just remove that. Okay? So, File, Save All, and let's run this. Skip something? I didn't think I did. File, Save. Oh, great. Now it's not running. It shouldn't be too big. Let's try making that 12. Doesn't seem, I wonder if this is what is screwing it up. Let me get rid of that. See if that is what is screwing it up. And it was. So it didn't like the left. Okay, so we've got that first name. Okay. All right, so there's a start. Let's continue on then. Okay, that's theirs. Yeah, these are just going to be, I don't think there's anything else in this one. So let's go back. And now let's look at a button. You'll notice it's got a lot of the same stuff. Background, foreground, the text you want in there, etc. All right. Now, in the example, it's got click me. Notice when you put your mouse over it, it looks like it's changing color. That we don't really care about, but you'll notice it's got a lot of the same stuff in here. All right, let's do the same thing. Let's see. Let's put this button in here, and we'll pack it. So we'll put that right after. Now, just so you're aware of this, I'm doing this literally, as you can tell, off the top of my head. It's not going to be impossible that I'm going to have these things butting up against one another. All right, here we've got command equal button clicked. I don't want to put that there. That's what we want to have a run, and we're not going to put anything there. All right, so let's do a file, save all. Let's try to run it. And there's our, you can see we've got it set up. Notice, where was the blue in here? Active background is blue. Active foreground is white. So when I click this, when I click the button, it becomes blue and the text becomes white. That's this. The click me should be pretty obvious. It's in the center. Again, don't remember what that is. The background by default is a light gray. Set the cursor. Foreground should be the default. All right, so you can see all the different stuff that's in here. We can add any and everything that we want to add in here. All right, and I mean, I can go through every single thing that is in here. Now, when we started at the very top, you close this. We had up here 400 by 250. Let's double that. Let's make it 800 by 500. Just so we can add some more controls and stuff on here and they stay on the screen. So now when we run this, it's going to be twice as big as it was before. There you go. All right. Entry again is single, one line of input. All right.
Hyundai Kona versus Honda HR-V.
Hold it.
Look what Kona has.
What happened there? Sorry about that. Let's go back again, or try to. All right, so we've got all that.
And what HR-V doesn't.
So we close these.
Hyundai Kona wins every time.
There we go. Tell you what that is real quick. And as I've got a daughter who's looking for a car, and I was trying to help her. So, okay. So this is the hello world. I don't want to do that yet. The entry again. So we looked at these. Let's go back to entry here. Let's just grab all of their code. Oops, I guess that's a little too much. And we'll go back and we'll look at most of it in just a minute. So let's copy that. All right, so file, save all, and let's run it. So notice now we've got username and password, and then we have a submit button. See that? So this could be like an entry form. So what have we got here? Let's take a quick look. All right, we've set the size of our window to 600 by 400. This is going to be where we're putting in the username. This is where we're going to put in the password. As it says, this is defining a function that will get these. So what we should be able to do is I'm going to put in there Jeff, and then for the password, I'm going to put in hello123, and we're going to see if it's going to print afterward, after I click the button. Kind of hard to see here. I can't really make this bigger, but so I'm going to put in here Jeff and hello123, and I click submit, and of course it's not showing me anything. But you can see we've set up the label here. We've set up our entry. Let's make this a little bit bigger so it's easier for us to see. All right. Yeah, it's not printing out anything. I thought it would here if I put in here Jeff and hello, that it would show it because, or is it showing it here? There it is. The name is Jeff. The password is hello. The takeaway, though, what I want you to understand is, okay, these are labels. These are entry fields. This is a button. The whole thing is a window. All right. And I don't ever mean to talk down to people. Sometimes people are like, well, yeah, just get on, start doing something where it matters. Yeah, but I've said this before. I'm very much adhering to the crawl, walk, run mentality. All right. Where I don't want us to jump into something. Okay. Here's a frame. Again, I'll just grab, I don't want to grab that. I want to grab all the code. And if we run this, there it is. Now that's pretty doggone ugly. But we've got here Geeks for Geeks, and we got a bunch of, I don't know if I guess they're buttons. All right. Now, don't worry about a frame. We're going to take a look at it in just a bit. All right. With everything, if this is your first foray into this stuff, if you've never done any GUI work with anything, it may seem difficult. It really and truly is not. However, if you've worked with a language like C#, you literally just click basically just drag these controls onto the screen as opposed to having to set them up like this. So this is a little bit more work. Here's a check button. And as always, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'll go through all these so you can see them. There it is. It's not checked. It is checked. All right. Radio buttons I've mentioned before. They're oftentimes used. Now, there's nothing wrong with the example they have here, but I'm going to change it around a little bit. All right. So instead of having these radio buttons, I'm going to put them in like this. And I'm going to have this say male, female, and the one and only other. Okay, let's even these out a little. I think that'll work. I didn't change much, but you can see it. Hopefully I didn't screw it up, but we'll find out. There we go. All right. Now, these aren't the way your typical radio buttons are going to look, but you'll note other, female, or male. Only one can be chosen at a time. Okay. List box. Okay, I'm going to do the same kind of thing. And again, I'll make a little superficial change to it. And that is, they've got in here, you know, what you're going to put in. I'm going to put in the members of my family. This is my immediate family, my wife Sandy, and I've got 3 daughters. And there's the list box. Now you can set these kind of things up so you can choose one thing, or you can hold down on the shift, and it's not set for that now. This is just single selection, but you can choose multiple things as well. All right. Let's finish this one up here. Scroll bar, I'm not going to go through that. It just is adding scroll bars. So if we did this, there's the scroll bar. You can add vertical or horizontal scroll bars. Okay. Menus are just that, for drawing, you know, for setting up menus. What you would quite often do with something like this would be, again, if I was going to write a lot of applications that look like this, I would put this into its own module and then bring in the module on an as-needed basis. So you'll see on here, there's file. You can see the different, see that? Okay. Finally, the canvas, which will, as it says, allow us to draw shapes. So we could do this and then draw our own stuff on here. All right. All right, let's finish this up. I'm at 52 minutes, so I want to stop when we get, because I like these to be no more than an hour. So quickly, let's look, let's see. I think what I'll do is I will stop right here, come back and do the intermediate things. Then we'll look at the advanced ones and the geometry ones. All right, and hit everything that's in here. So I'll be back with part 2 of this lecture shortly.